This is a video comparison between two foldable 88 key piano, keyboard, MIDI controllers, whatever you want to call them. I originally bought this one, and I'll show you how it folds. So you hit this little switch, it's kind of hard to show. You hit the switch right there, and then it folds at that point, and I can't fold it because it'll just fold into my TV. But then the next day, I realized that this one, which is the Pro version, existed. So, to start, both of them claim to have Bluetooth MIDI. I haven't gotten that to work on either. The sound on this one, the non-Pro, is a little bit worse. It's a little bit cheaper sounding. It has 128 tones, whereas the Pro has 38. But the tones on the Pro sound better than what are on the non-Pro. The non-Pro has terrible speakers. Volume 1 is okay. As you turn it up, it doesn't really get louder. It just gets more painful. So, using speakers, like using the aux or the headphone out to speakers, that sounds good. That's fine. And I also did an experiment, which you'll see later in the video, where I hooked it up to a guitar pedal with delay and reverb to try and get it close to this, because this one has reverb built in, which is very nice. And it sounds pretty good. So this is a contender. Like, I thought I was going to like this one. And this one has a place, because I think this one makes a better MIDI controller. It's a little bit lighter. This one's a little bit bulkier and heavier. This one's easier to open and close. This one, the mechanism is on the bottom, and it's a little bit difficult. The speakers on the Pro are a lot better. They're totally usable as is. The piano sound and all of the other sounds on the Pro are better and more usable. But if you add reverb to this one, you have 128 tones. So it sounds similar. They're similar but different. And you can hear it yourself later. There'll be back-to-back sound comparisons. The keys on the non-Pro are a little bit lighter feeling, which is why I think it makes a better MIDI controller for like synthesizers and stuff. The Pro feels a little bit more like a piano. The texture on the keys is the same, but the weight of the Pro is just a little bit heavier. It's a little bit nicer. I think I'm a little bit more accurate when I'm pressing them. I feel like I make a little bit more mistakes on the non-Pro, but I mean, you could learn around that. I'm just looking at some notes here. The reverb is pretty good on the Pro. It definitely makes a big difference. I hear it more when I use its own speakers than when I use the line out to speakers. To bigger speakers, rather. The Pro also has a USB line out, which is nice, because then you can listen through your computer if you wanted to. The Pro model has a 1/4 inch sustain output. That's nice. It also has what looks like a MIDI, but it says pedal 2. Not sure what that does. I think it can go for like a 3-pedal setup, I've heard. There'll be a link to another review with someone who can play better than me reviews these pianos. The piano sound on the non-Pro is kind of meh. Like, I feel like The Pro model has a lot more sustain. It's a lot more natural sounding. The non-Pro has like a little bit more of like a digital cheap sound to it, and then it cuts off a lot sooner. And it also has, I forget how many note polyphony, but the Pro has 120 something notes, whereas the non-Pro has a lot less than that. So you're not going to be able to hit as much as you can. I do notice that some notes drop off if you like make larger arpeggios and are holding the sustain pedal. Certain notes will disappear. The mic inputs. The mic input on the non-Pro is useless. I don't know if it's just mine, but it's distorted garbage. The mic input on the Pro is interesting because it automatically adds reverb. So that's kind of a pro and a con, because if you use the headphone out on this one and input it into this one, the Pro, you get reverb, and then it sounds pretty cool. But I mean, then you have to have both. I was potentially going to return this one, the non-Pro, but I'm not so sure anymore. The non-Pro uses a USB-C. The Pro uses a USB-B, I believe this is. And it also has a power adapter. The on-off switch is in a much better place because it's actually a switch, whereas the non-Pro is a button over. I don't know if you could see it. It's just a button, and I've heard that that can get turned on if it's in its bag. They do both come with bags and store away and fold away nicely. The non-Pro, I like its tone controls more. It's just you hold this button and you spin this dial. And again, I don't know if you can see it. They're so long. The dial you have to kind of spin twice per each time you want to change tones, but I mean, it works. I'm going to set it to the Rhodes. The non-Pro has a Rhodes piano sound. That's why I'm really torn, because it sounds good. Maybe not over its own speakers. This is just through the built-in speakers, which again are not great. Although the Rhodes piano sounds fine. The natural piano, or the acoustic piano, doesn't sound that great through its own speakers. I could even play, I'll play the Pro too. And then reverb is just one click button. The MP3 or the aux input on the non-Pro works fine. The MP3 input on the Pro, and I might have mentioned this already, but the MP3 input on the Pro doesn't work for me. I mean, it works, but it's very bassy and it's very muffled on the higher end. So maybe that's to allow you to play over things, but I would rather it just be neutral. The Bluetooth audio inputs, rather, on both, which they have, are fine. But the auxiliary inputs are a little weird on specifically the Pro. And the mic input on the non-Pro is broken on mine. I don't know if that's every. Trying to think if there's anything else to mention. If there's not, then we will move on to the sound demos. So on screen right now will be all of the sounds that are on the non-Pro 88 key, and anything marked in blue are the sounds that are shared with the Pro model. And I tried to focus the sound demos on the tones that were shared between the two. So here are the tones for the Pro model. The only one that's not on the non-Pro is 36, which is marked with red. Next, we're going to have some experiments using the non-pro with a Vailton GP100 guitar effects pedal for reverb and then also delay. But we'll do a comparison of reverb with non-pro plus the pro with its own reverb. And then we'll also do just some other piano comparisons and sound comparisons. Next up, we have a section of a song called Fiction by Avenged Sevenfold, which is an interesting choice, which I just happen to be able to play reasonably well. So it's usually a good test of pianos for me.